He directed The Exorcist and The French Connection. But when William Friedkin sat down to list the films he couldn't stop rewatching, none of them were big mainstream hits. No Spielberg, no Scorsese, just a war movie so disturbing it got banned, an erotic thriller blacklisted in the States, and a horror so powerful it destroyed the director's career. Here's Friedkin's list of 10 films everyone needs to see. Charles Laughton was already a huge stage actor in Britain before he came over to Hollywood in the early 1930s. Here in the States, he instantly became a legendary screen actor. By the mid-50s, with years of stage directing under his belt, Laughton decided to step behind the camera for the first time. The movie he made was The Night of the Hunter. Robert Mitchum stars as this creepy, murderous preacher who worms his way into the lives of a single mom and her 2 kids. Now considered one of the greatest films ever, it was actually a huge disaster when it came out. The failure really hurt Laughton. He took it personally and immediately quit directing forever, sticking to acting from then on. Friedkin calls Mitchum's preacher the most frightening psychopath ever shown in film. He says the screenplay is basically like a Grimm Brothers fairy tale set during America's Depression era. For Friedkin, it's one of the most unforgettable films ever made. Here's one movie Friedkin shares with Tarantino. They're both completely in love with Le Samouraï. This stylish French film is about Alain Delon as Jeff Costello, a meticulous hitman who kills a nightclub owner but accidentally leaves a witness alive. Suddenly, the cops are after him, his bosses turn on him, and he's trapped between both sides. Friedkin describes it as the ultimate existential gangster film. Cool, calculated, slow-moving, and detailed. The complete opposite of your typical emotional mob thriller. Alain Delon gives his absolute coolest performance as a killer, totally unfazed by morality. It even influenced films like John Woo's The Killer and later on Drive. Friedkin specifically praises clean, methodical framing here and says the movie feels almost dreamlike. This one's actually a short documentary, just about half an hour, but Friedkin calls it one of the most emotionally powerful things he's ever seen. Made just 10 years after the Holocaust, it shows the abandoned camps of Auschwitz and Majdanek in color, eerily quiet and empty. Then suddenly it cuts to horrifying, graphic black and white footage of the atrocities committed there. Friedkin first saw it right around the time he watched Night of the Hunter, when he was getting ready to make his own first documentary. He vividly remembers how the film opens on calm, scenic views. Blue sky, green grass, flowers, and then quickly shifts into some of the most brutal footage ever recorded. Another French film, but completely different. This one's surreal, avant-garde, and famously impossible to figure out. The story's simple enough on paper. A guy keeps insisting to a woman they met a year ago at Marienbad, and she agreed to run off with him. But she has no idea what he's talking about. The whole thing plays out like some strange, looping dream that never really ends or makes sense. Friedkin admitted straight up he had never understood it. He'd watched it at least 20 times over 50 years and still had no clue what was going on, but loved it anyway. He said it totally changed how filmmakers of his generation understood storytelling and even changed the possibilities of narrative in cinema. He'd stopped trying to solve the movie a long time ago. Instead, he just let the visuals and atmosphere wash over him. To him, it was pure visual music, completely unique and totally unforgettable. Simple setup, unforgettable execution. A hated school principal gets murdered by his wife and his mistress, and they hide his body in an abandoned swimming pool. But when they drain it later, the body's gone. Is he dead or not? The suspense in this one is insane. Friedkin ranks it alongside Hitchcock's best stuff, and Hitchcock himself desperately wanted to direct it. But another filmmaker beat him to the rights. Stephen King calls this one as terrifying today as it was back in 1955, saying it even outdid Hitchcock himself. Friedkin openly admitted he had Diabolique in mind when he shot Ellen Burstyn climbing those attic stairs in The Exorcist. No nudity, no violence, just pure slow-building suspense that escalates to terror. He said, "The penultimate scene had the same effect on me as Psycho." This one's a Danish fantasy drama, directed by Carl Theodor Dreyer. It's about a farmer named Morten and his 3 sons, who all have completely different beliefs about religion. Youngest son is religious just like his dad, oldest son has totally lost his faith, and the middle son is straight up delusional. He literally thinks he's Jesus Christ. Then things get complicated when Mikkel's wife goes into a very difficult childbirth, and suddenly everyone's beliefs are seriously tested. William Friedkin talked a lot about this one, and he said there's a scene of literal resurrection in this film that directly inspired his approach to The Exorcist. He said it gave him courage to stage supernatural events without using weird camera angles or creepy lighting, just making it feel totally real. This one was a massive influence on him. Another Friedkin favorite is The Red Shoes from Powell and Pressburger. Basically, it's about a young ballet dancer who's completely torn between her personal life and her career dream of becoming a prima ballerina. It's now seen as one of the greatest British movies ever, voted 9th best of all time by the British Film Institute back in '99. Friedkin calls this film true madness, about a descent into madness, adapted from a Hans Christian Andersen story. He says it's essential for anyone serious about movies. Anton Walbrook, playing the ballet company director, gives an amazing performance that Friedkin says alone makes the film worth seeing. Friedkin actually described watching The Red Shoes as a transcendent experience and said clearly, "You need to see this. Unless, like me, you've already watched it endlessly." This Kubrick classic is one Friedkin has praised endlessly. Basically, it's about the madness of World War I trench warfare, with French soldiers being ordered into a completely impossible battle against the Germans. A general orders his subordinate to take a German position called the Anthill, and the soldiers suffer horrific losses trying. There's a shocking moment when the general actually tries to order artillery fire on his own men just to push them forward. Friedkin said this is one of the darkest, most powerful war films ever made, still totally impactful today. Kirk Douglas, who starred as Colonel Dax, called it timeless even back in 1969. Friedkin praised the camera work and editing, noting Kubrick was clearly influenced by directors like Orson Welles, but said Kubrick was completely original here. And the contrast between the arrogant generals living comfortably and the soldiers dying horribly really hits home, reminding us of war's senselessness. France banned this film until 1975 because it showed their military leadership in such a harsh light. It's bleak, unforgettable, and Friedkin said those famous tracking shots through the trenches, with explosions constantly hitting, stay in your head forever. This is a Japanese crime thriller, and one Friedkin called a tough, energetic chase film. It's based on the true story of a serial killer and thief who went on a crime spree across Japan. The film has some surprising religious elements, especially highlighting Japan's Catholic community, something most viewers wouldn't expect. Directed by Shohei Imamura, who previously worked as an assistant for the legendary Japanese director Yasujiro Ozu. But Imamura deliberately moved away from Ozu's quieter, formal style. Friedkin explained Imamura wanted his movies to be totally different, more operatic, more contemporary, less restrained. The film jumps around in time, which some viewers found confusing, but Friedkin loved how it blended surreal scenes with documentary realism. Ken Ogata, who plays the killer, gave an amazing, charismatic performance. Friedkin said fans of Imamura's other films like The Eel or The Ballad of Narayama absolutely need to see this one. Even Roger Ebert called it one of his great films. And finally, Friedkin called this one his Desert Island Disc, the one film he's rewatched more than any other. It's a surreal erotic drama, with Catherine Deneuve playing a beautiful housewife bored with her marriage who secretly starts working at a high-class brothel. Friedkin described it as a thriller wrapped inside an enigma, slowly and ambiguously revealing its character's psychology. This film showed how talented Catherine Deneuve is as an actress, not just as a famously beautiful woman. Despite having almost no explicit sex or violence, Friedkin said if ratings boards actually understood this film, they'd slap it with an NC-17 immediately. It's sharp, funny, and deeply critical of middle-class society, the church, and traditional morals. Friedkin never got tired of rewatching it, and clearly it was one of his absolute favorites.